Alrighty.
All right, it's 6 o'clock. Are we ready to start? Is everyone ready to go? Okay, well, hello everyone, and welcome back to our growth workshop. It's fantastic to see you all here for session 2, and we're going to continue building on the great work that you started in our first session. So today we're going to dive deeper into practical strategies for growing all of your clubs, including leveraging tools like the Lions Map to Grow app that you learned about last time, and asset-based community development. So before we get started, I'd like to remind everyone that in this session is being recorded, and you're going to receive 2 follow-up emails. The first soon after tonight's session, and we're going to ask you for some feedback. And the second on Friday with all the materials and the links and the resources that were shared today. So you're going to remain muted throughout today's session, just like last time. Now, that doesn't mean that we don't want to hear from you. We're making this session as interactive as possible. So you'll be asked for your thoughts and your opinions throughout the session. And as always, if you have any comments or questions, please share them in the chat and our team will address them promptly. And as always, to kick things off, let's hear from you about one of the key tools we discussed last time, the Lions Map to Grow app. So as you remember, this app is designed to help you quickly identify community assets, potential partners, and more. So let's take a moment and do a quick poll. And the question is, did you have an opportunity to try out Map to Grow since our last session? So you should see the poll coming up real quick on the screen now, and we're going to take a moment to share your response. Okay, let's see. It's getting close to the end, I think. So 79% didn't try it out, but the good thing is 21% did. So that is great. And so you guys, there's opportunity there. So that 79%, you need to try it as soon as you go home or tomorrow and get some experience using that app. Okay, next slide. Okay, tonight is all about recruiting. And we're going to just read the slide real quick first. We're going to talk about district reports, recruiting resources, recruitment models, inviting a new generation. That's a good one. Inspiration, recruiting tips and tricks, recruiting Q&A. You know, you're going to put your questions and answers in the chat, and your district growth team assignment. We're going to hear what you've been working on this last week. So remember, you will be muted throughout the session, but that doesn't mean that we don't want to hear from you. So put your chat questions, use the chat to ask your questions or share your thoughts on what's being presented. So we'll be sharing the links and files in the chat throughout the session. So you can click on them and download them if you'd like. No worries if you can't do it or if they, go by too quickly. They'll be sent out on Friday as part of the follow-up email with the recording, the links, and the files. So please also watch for that evaluation email in your inbox about 30 minutes after this session. Share your feedback so we can continue to improve. With that, let's get started with some updates from your district growth teams. Jesse, you're up next.
All right, and I am seeing several questions in the chat about where you're going to get, or where do you find Map to Grow? Where do you get that app? We will not be dropping those links in the chat this time. People had a hard time keeping up with it, so that will be in the follow-up email. So you will get all of those links in the follow-up email. But prior to this,
Jesse, I'm sorry to interrupt. We are dropping the links in the chat this
we
evening
are.
for those that would like to keep up with the chat. Great. Otherwise, you can look for them in the email as well.
Thank you. I misread our stuff. So the App to Grow link is now in the chat. If you do want to click on that and bookmark it, you have that. So the district team assignments, we are going to be reporting out. And so the district team assignments, they were to create the potential club list using AI, rank in order of priority, figure out who your growth team members are, who your potential sponsoring club is, and your potential guiding lions, and then the resources needed. So we are going to hear how they're doing, and we're going to start with Doug Harvey. And you will have 2 minutes to present. When you have 30 seconds left, Jody is going to turn very bright yellow. And then at 2 minutes, we're just going to cut you off. So
Okay, well, first of all, we actually charter a new club tomorrow. We're really excited about that. And that's in the town of Surprise. How many people are familiar with the town of Surprise, Oregon? And I suggested that they call it the Pullet Club, the Pullet Surprise, but that didn't go over very well. Though we have another club that's starting in Scottsdale, and it hasn't cranked up yet, but it's very close to chartering. So we have requirement, I think. Maribel, you're welcome to join me on this, but Maribel, district governor, she's the one who pretty much set this up. She has this one almost ready to go, and she planned in her role this year of starting 2 new clubs. So we've already reached that success. I think we're pretty close to that. There is several other clubs that we've been working with. You have that list in front of you, I believe. But the fourth one on there is Cottonwood, and that happens to be my home club. And President David Heiss is with me tonight. We have grown that club from 14 to 23, officially 23. We're going to make it to 30 by the end of the year. And at some point in time, we may even create a branch from that club. We're working on that process right now. So I'm really excited about that. Our growth team, the list is there. Our district governor, our second vice district governor, our first vice district governor, our second vice district governor, and we have a good crew. We're all set up. We got most of the zone chairs involved with this. So we're looking to have a really exciting time. Let's see. We have our guiding lines in place, and we're going to be working very closely with the Surprise Club to make sure that club succeeds. It's really kind of an interesting club because they're actually working with folks in the retirement centers, and so they're giving them something to do and entertaining them and helping them out. It's new ideas, thinking outside the box and creating a new club in Surprise. So we're excited about that. How much time do I have left?
a little bit less than 30 seconds.
Okay, there you go. That's pretty much a rundown on this. We are a plus about 30 39 members, and
Doug?
that's after getting. I'm sorry.
We're definitely over the 2-minute mark.
Okay, I'm shutting it off. Thank you.
All right. So that's awesome. You guys already have some new clubs in the works, and it sounds like you have a great team. So next, we want to hear from Lion Lisa Allen.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so okay, all right. Thank you, Richard. So Lori asked me to kind of talk about what my process was as I went through this. So first of all, I want to shout out to my team. They are fantastic. We had a Zoom meeting and went through everybody that was on and others. So what I did is I gathered North and South teams for my district, and that's made a ton of sense to me, the way my district runs. And so we did this Zoom meeting, and both areas I grabbed people on my cabinet presidents. We had a suggestion of pulling in membership, club membership people, also to all the guiding lions, and I split everybody up into the coordinating areas. And then we talked about, so as district governors coming in, we had to come up with a list of 30 possible areas back in the summer. So I pulled that list out and we went through that list. And so that was easy to use that list, which was great. So we talked about that list and prioritized those areas, and a lot of those areas, we used to have clubs there. So as we went through that, my North team picked several areas and my South team picked several areas that we needed to concentrate on. And so, oh, I see the yellow light, I gotta hurry. And so we have about at least 4 clubs, the areas that we're going to work on in each area. But we also, I have a Leo club that's already launched, that launched last month. And then we also have 2 other clubs that we are really close to getting ready to launch in the Pocatello area, which is where I'm at. And 2, they're both advocacy clubs. So we're super excited about that. So there you go.
Thank you, Lisa. And I'm noticing a theme that both of them really have a good team put together. I like that you said that you were using the list you created this summer. This was not meant to recreate the wheel. So using that, you mentioned Leo clubs, and we actually had somebody drop in the chat that they are looking at a couple Leo clubs. So really great feedback. Next up, we have Raleigh Peck from Montana.
It doesn't appear Raleigh is here unless
It's under, I saw him. It is under SD 37, Governor Raleigh.
Oh,
You guys
let's try that.
are hiding your names. It's okay.
There he is. Found him. Here he
You're just
comes.
seeing if we're paying attention.
I couldn't unmute myself. Sorry. I will tell you, John Kimball is our point man on this. So our second vice, he's got all the notes on this, but I will tell you here last month, we launched a new Leo club.
And John
Yeah.
Kimball is here if we want to unmute him. It's
Oh, you can-
Jon.
And go back to John Kimball. Thanks, John.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. We did a similar thing to our last report. We had a list going last summer of about in excess of 30 clubs that formerly had Lion clubs in the state of Montana. And we identified 3 potentials that we were already working on in the Manhattan, Livingston, Three Forks area, and then several in the northwest part of the state that we're aiming to focus on. We ranked them in order of priority and where to focus and talked about resources and who to assign to them. Our growth team was selected. We formed with all of the district governors, our GET member, past district governors, and the current district treasurer. And we have identified the potential sponsoring entities, and what we decided to do now was to focus on the guiding lions in those areas that will need to foster the continuing success of any clubs that we can form. Our treasurer has developed a contact list and a website that people can click on and indicate interest. And so we're using that for points of contact in those locations. And we're looking forward to having some success with this, so we're going to try it out. That's what I have to report.
Thank you. And I like that both you and Lion Lisa mentioned specifically looking at places that formerly had Lions clubs. You know, that's a great resource that you might be able to draw some of those people in. And then you mentioned specifically following up with those contacts that you're maintaining that list, and again, those guiding lions. And so really, really great stuff. Excited to see what is happening in Montana. And you guys have a unique challenge with how large your single district is.
Yeah.
But you're not letting that stop you, so that's awesome.
I also recruited another member this morning. So
great job. Yeah, so it's great to see all the hard work. We have one more that we want to hear from, and that is Lion Wes Brown. Oh, and while we're getting Wes on, we have from the chat, the Linden Leo's Charter Night is on February 10th. That's awesome. So it's great to see people also focusing on the new generation. All right, so Lion Wes, we'll let you take it away with the great stuff happening in New Mexico.
Well, thank you. I took and chose our team, and I got people. Right now, we're 2 districts, so we're going to 1 district. And our new incoming district governor asked me to head this. So I picked potential cities that used to have, or communities that had Lions before. And we went over them, and we decided on one that's pretty close to Edgewood and Minority Lions clubs, to sponsor these Lions Club, to go talk to them. And we're talking about doing a tourist specialty club. And I got my growth team as the vice district governors, the GAT, the zone chairs, the GLT, and other volunteers. And there will be we need these clubs, like I said, Edgewood and Morty are close to Santa Rosa, and we used to have a club in Santa Rosa. And we've got lots of lions that are guiding lions. 2 years ago, we had a guiding lions class at our state convention, and I think we had over 20 some lions that were being guiding lions. So that's what we discussed there. And the thing about New Mexico is we're like a lot of the other states. We got a long ways to travel from one end to the other. Like for me to travel from here, where I live in Farmington, to Santa Rosa is over 300 miles. So anyway, and then we decided that we needed to take and have a meeting room that was big enough to have a meeting. And we have not, would have a sponsor a branch club to get it started. That's all I got to say.
Thank you, Wes. Again, I like that we're thinking about where we formerly had Lions clubs, the idea of a branch club. Sometimes that's a really great way if you're not sure you can get 20 people right away, to not lose that momentum with the people you do have. And again, thinking about the Guiding Lions, you guys did a workshop. That's awesome to get those people there. And it looks like, and I like this from the chat. Somebody said that they had a club that was a sponsor of a club. So Tonopah, I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, was a sponsor of Bishop. And now Bishop's going to be the sponsor of the new Tonopah Club. So it's kind of fun how that circle of life happens. But really great work from everybody on their growth plans. If you have questions, these are great people to ask. But with that, we're going to start talking about that recruiting. And so we're going to hand it off to Stephanie for our next slide.
Thank you. Hi, Lions. Welcome. As Jesse said, we're going to talk about recruiting. So you have identified these areas for potential clubs, and now we need to talk about getting members. Recruiting members is vital to developing a new club. As a recruitment team, it's good to list out names of individuals that you feel are important to connect in order to share the value of Lions. And there are key relationships that some people on the recruitment team could have with the community. And if you don't, we need to get those key individuals, right? We need to figure out who can we get that knows people in the community. And those are the people we're going to start with. And this is also a perfect time to reach out to other Lions in the district to see if they know anyone in that target community. And you'd be surprised, like people might know someone like, oh yeah, I know someone over there in Bridgedale or whatever. I'm just making up names, but yeah, reach out to other Lions and say, do you know anyone in this area? And then make sure you get permission, like, hey, can I use your name? And that's called a warm lead. And when you call them, you can say, hey, so-and-so told me that you are a very kind person who cares about the community. And we're looking for people who care about their community to join this club. So that's called a warm lead. What we want to talk about right here is the recruiting wheel. And I love the recruiting wheel. I love this thing. It's been around for a long time and it's an effective tool. It makes sense. I know a lot of clubs who use this and it works. It helps us focus on personal connections that we have and potential recruits. Okay, so you go through each slice of this wheel, and as you go through the slice, you say to yourself, who do I know? What relative do I know that would like to contribute to improving the community? And you write down your relatives. What friends do I know that would like to contribute to improving the community? And this actually works really well if you do it in a group setting, right? Because then everyone is putting that list together. What neighbors do I know in that community? What religious affiliates are there in that community? And you just go around this wheel. What professionals are in that community? And professionals could be doctors, lawyers. Also put in the chat, like if you have other things that you think would be good for this wheel or examples that could fit in these slices of pie, put it in the chat. So professionals, doctors, lawyers, who else? Accountants, your dentist.
So we
small
see Native
business owners.
American councils from the chat.
Yeah, lots of professionals. Also, I think that might be like a community leader. There's community leaders, elected officials.
Somebody asked, can you cross state lines to start clubs? You know, if you want to work with, so in our district, we had a club that we started that was really close to the border of another district, and we actually had a guiding lion from another district. So we don't have to be geography bound. You would just need to work with that other district.
Yeah. Other examples of community leaders, school principals, maybe the chief of police or the fire chief or hospital administrators. So those are community leaders, and usually a community leader is someone who cares about making the community better. So those are great people to say, would you be interested in joining this association? Or
we're also getting in the chat, Stephanie, optometrists and ophthalmologists, extended family, residents in a housing development.
Perfect. Yeah, the totally aligns with our mission, right? Yeah, so go through that wheel. So this is a really good tool. And when you start getting, you know, some of those members, you do it again, right? You keep doing this. You keep using this wheel to grow that circle. Also, youth groups, youth leaders, Boy Scouts, lots of different opportunities and potential groups that we can add to this wheel. Okay, next slide. So as you start getting these ideas, remember I said write them down, but it's kind of hard to keep track like on a scratch piece of paper. So you will want to set up some type of system to gather and track the names and the contact information of those potential new lions. And that could be something like an Excel spreadsheet or a Google sheet or a Word document or something like that. But someone needs to create that system to gather and track those names. It's very important, right? Because we don't want to, you know, think about them and then like forget. So we need to track those names. This is one example here on this slide. This is a Google form. And these are pretty simple to make. And I think, can you put that in the chat? Like people can test that out?
It's in the chat.
Okay. Yeah. So this is a Google form. It's something like you could adapt to gather your own recruitment names. But the cool thing about this is everyone can put their they're like potential members in this Google form, and Google makes a Google sheet of all the submissions. And so it's just one big ongoing list. And so now instead of one person having to like, you know, read what someone wrote on a scratch piece of paper, it's all in one list. So I encourage you to use this technology of Google to help make this gathering and tracking even better. Okay. So with that, let's transition to looking at two recruitment models. So we're going to look at the needs or the center of influence based recruiting model, and we're going to look at asset based recruiting model. So that's what's coming up next. And we'll start with some inspiration on starting a needs-based Lions Club. And so this is going to be a video from Lynn Graybow, who's a superstar in starting new clubs. Okay, so Jody, are you ready with that video? And then you can make some comments. Here we go.
Jody, we don't have audio.
There's no audio.
So while Jody fixes that audio, we saw some other things where tribal councils came up in here. Somebody asked about if there's a presentation that they can be used, and we will be having some examples of that later in this meeting, so we will have those things as well.
Another thing I noticed that a lot of people said, well, we used to have a club in that area and it folded. Sometimes there are still people that were members of the club that folded that still want to be members, and like something happened before, but now maybe it's time to go back. There could be a handful of members that still want to join. So that's another, like, you know, previous Lions members, maybe they want to come back.
We're ready to go with the video. Sorry for the delay. Here we go.
I am Lion Lynn Grable. I am a past district governor. I just finished my term as district governor. And about a year ago, my wife and I were doing club visits in our area. And my area is Bismarck, North Dakota. And when I was coming back from club visits, one of the things that came out apparent to me and my wife was we have a lot of good quality clubs in our area, but they're just very content with who they are and the service they're doing. But they're really not interested in growing like we as district governors want them to grow. So one of the calculations my wife and I made was, okay, if they're not willing to grow, then we need to grow new clubs. So what we did is we started canvassing different communities and looking for places for new clubs. One of the clubs was in a small town north of where I am. Truly, I look for a center of influence. I'd like to have a center of influence given to me by a Lions member, but if not, I generally go to businesses. And when I go to businesses, grocery stores, banks, credit unions, those kinds of places, that's where the positive people are. And that's why they have a good business, because they've got a positive attitude. So I'll go in and talk to the person at the grocery store, for instance, and visit with them about a potential Lions club. First, I usually just try to get a little bit of a connection with them, to visit with them a little bit and relate back and forth about their business, their world, their family. And then I say, okay, I know you're busy. If you give me 10 minutes, I would like to explain to you about a Lions Club in your community. And they always ask, what's a Lions Club? I generally use this hello brochure, get to know the world's largest service organization. I use the brochure to use as a bullet point to explain what Lions Clubs are and how we can make Main Street work together and become a better community. And truly, Lions Clubs provide service, but it should be fun service. So visiting with them, I tell them about what Lions Clubs can do. There are dues with any quality organization. There will be some dues to pay. It's not a lot. I ask them if they have any questions. And if they have none, I'll slide a charter application in front of them and say, would you consider being a Lions member today to help your community be better? They generally say yes. I'll collect a $35 fee and have them fill out the applications right there and tell them I'm going to hold the checks until I get all 25 members together. And then once it's together, then we will run the checks through. That way I don't have to double back and get checks later. I ask them for 2 to 3 positive people they know in the community that they would like to have beside them as Lions members. Generally, they give me 2 to 3 names right away. I always write them down and get their place of work and their phone numbers if possible, and then thank them for their membership. I'll go to the second person and say, hey, I just talked to Matt and Sarah at the grocery store. They're going to be charter members of this new Lions Club in your community. They said you are a fun and positive person. It's a compliment hearing that Matt and Sarah said that about them. They're immediately interested. So I'll tell them about what Lions clubs are and go through the brochure again. And I repeat this process over and over again with each person as a referral. The process works. It's a great tool to add new members to existing clubs, but more importantly, chartering new clubs. But I think the most important part in chartering a Lions club is we need quality guiding lions. It is so imperative to have the right people in place so that these clubs feel the positive love of other lions, helping them to be successful in the future. The good guiding lions are going to have good clubs, but the great guiding lions are going to have great clubs. Okay, Lions, I have one more point I want to make. And that point is, a year ago when I became district governor, one of the things I found was I had one club in my district with one member left. In that process of finding that out, I went and talked to the existing member and asked him if he wanted the club to live or die. And he was 87 years old, and he said he'd like it to live. So I asked him for 3 names of fun, positive people in his small town of 300 people. He gave me 3 names. I found out through this rebuilding of a club that this process works through referrals, asking for 3 fun, positive people. I asked those people for 3 names each. We were able to rebuild that club in a couple of days from 1 member to 15. It was then I realized this is the process that we need. Using the referral process, using a center of influence in our communities makes a huge difference in the success of chartering new clubs. We were very fortunate this last year to rebuild one club and save it because it was going to die. And the other was we chartered 3 new clubs. We ended up plus over 100 last year in 5MW. I'm very proud of that, but it was the process that made it happen. Yes, the passion of being a Lion makes a huge difference when you bring this process to the people. Lions need to grow. Growth is a very imperative. It's very important. And the best way to grow clubs is to start with centers of influence and ask for referrals. It's a process that works, and it will work for you. Thank you very much.
Wow. Don't we all wish we had a Lynn in our districts? Because what he does is remarkable. It's so simple. He focuses on those centers of influence, preferably with a Lion recommendation, just like Stephanie was just talking about. He looks for fun, positive, successful people. He talks to them like real humans. Then he gets 3 names from them, along with contact information, and then he uses their name to speak with those referrals. And I love that it works, and he points out exactly, because we know this. What this process works, whether you're trying to start a new club or rejuvenating an existing club. It is fantastic. 2 other points I want to make, and then we'll go on with the rest of curriculum. But number 1 is that Lynn talked about collecting checks. And some people still have checks, but I'm going to remind you that a fairly large and growing percentage of the population does not have a checking account anymore. They don't have checkbooks. They do everything electronically. So you as a district need to figure out how you're going to handle that. We want people to join Lions whether they have a checkbook or not, right? So if they don't have a checkbook, how are we going to be able to get them to pay their dues? So work on that. And the last thing is, I mentioned earlier, wouldn't we all love to have someone like Lynn in our district? I guarantee you do. Lynn is a retired sales professional. He was a very successful sales professional. We all have those people in our districts that were in sales or do sales as part of their career that are Lions, that have a passion for our organization and our association and what we do. We just need to ask them to join our team and get out there and help us recruit and grow Lionism. So with that, if you have any thoughts on what Lynn shared with us, please drop them in the chat, and we'll share those out as we move along.
I like Eric Tweedy's, what is a check?
Exactly. What is a check? It's really challenging.
Yeah, Lion Lori said, Venmo, Zelle, PayPal, Cash App, so many options that are free. Those are all great options.
Awesome. Great feedback.
Zephy, I haven't heard of Zephy. Zephy is free. It's fantastic.
Awesome. All right, are we, anything else, or are we ready to move on to talk about how we start clubs?
I think we're ready to move on.
Thank you, Jesse. Oops. All right, here we go. So let's talk a little bit about the process of actually starting a club. How do you go from having those conversations like Lynn was talking about to actually getting a club in place? And we're going to start with, there's 3 different meetings we're going to talk about. We're going to start with a key stakeholder meeting. So what does that mean? Basically, you've identified 4 to 5 potential members that are centers of influence in that community. You bring them together to have a conversation as a whole. Explain that you're working to start a new Lions Club that's going to meet the needs in their communities. You're inviting them to this meeting to discuss the needs and how Lions Clubs can help them meet them. Then when you get to the meeting, it's really all about you providing a framework, giving some brief introductions, then letting them talk about what they see as the needs in their community. You then are there with a hello brochure, which Lynn referred to. The hello brochure is a fantastic brochure. We talked about it at our last session that really helps explain what Lions do. You can pick and choose based on what they've identified as their needs to share out and point out from that brochure. Additionally, if you can bring a laptop or a tablet or some sort of technology that allows you to share a brief video about what Lions do to help make sure they understand the potential and the power of this organization, it really takes you much further in the conversation. Next up, you're going to be looking to get buy-in from them and a commitment from them to join the club and start the club and invite others to do the same. The last one of these sessions I did was down in Louisiana last year. And it was fascinating because we brought 4 powerful people from the community together, centers of influence, and they were all on top of this, starting a childcare project because they were lacking childcare in their area. And how could Lions Clubs help that? They then went on to bring every community member together and organize a info meeting date and the location and promote it across their entire county, actually. And they ended up starting a club within a few months. So this key stakeholder meeting is very important in setting the groundwork for what comes from there. I'm going to turn it over to the rest of the team to talk about the informational meeting that comes next.
So the informational meeting is the first time that all of the prospective members are going to meet to find out more about the Lions and the new club. And the goal is to share more about what it means to be a Lion, build excitement, and about the potential service projects that, such as Lion Jody was just talking about, and sign up members. So as we go into the information meeting, the first thing we want to do is prepare. And so we want to work with our key stakeholders to promote. So those are the people that Lion Jody was just talking about that you're going to be using to help form the club. Get them to do that promotion. Get them to reach out because we're going to have what Stephanie called that warm lead, that connection. And then as we're preparing, we want to think about setting up that room. Do we have enough tables and chairs? Do we need tables or is it just going to be chairs? What is the format going to be? So, do you have enough space? Is it conducive to how you're holding the meeting? We want it to be welcoming. We don't, want it to be off-putting. So, how are we going to make them feel welcome when they come in? You want to dress professionally or lie in casual. No vest. And I kind of have a little personal story about this. I was in a service fraternity in college called Alpha Phi Omega. I don't know if we have any fellow APOers on here. And as we were getting ready to graduate, we thought, how are we going to continue to serve in our community? And we had some people from Rotary come and talk to us. And mind you, we're college students. And they showed up in those vests. And I turned to my friend and I said, who are the dorky people in the vests? Why would I ever? And it was, why would I ever want to wear that? It was immediately a disconnect. And it's kind of like what Lion Lori said in the chat. You have to meet people where they are. So if you are working toward a more casual, maybe a family oriented club, or you're getting younger people, khakis and your Lions polo are great. If you're, we recommend that you don't wear your Lions business attire unless it is a business club and you know that people are going to show up in business attire. Again, we want them to feel like they're welcome and part of us. And so if we're showing up with those bright vests or we're showing up in our jackets, that can actually give us that disconnect where they maybe don't feel like they're going to belong to this organization. It's such a little thing that can make a huge difference. Let's give the attendees name tags because I don't know about you guys. I'm terrible with names. Somebody can introduce themselves, and 2 minutes later, I'm like, all right, who are you again? So giving them name tags, and I'm going to say, give us name tags too, so that they can talk to us. That's going to make it easier to really converse with them. Have a welcoming committee and think about who you want on it. I'm sure we all have those really excited lions that can sometimes be a little too intense. And somebody might come in, oh my gosh, you're here, welcome, come in, and we're gonna do this and this and this and this and this. And their enthusiasm is amazing. But if you're brand new, that can be very overwhelming. So think about who are those warm, nurturing, welcoming. And depending on the group that you're talking to, maybe they need that laid back personality, or maybe it's a group that really is fired up and needs that go getter personality. So who is going to be there? Um, and make sure you have somebody taking notes, that you already have that designated, because you're going to get done with this whirlwind meeting and you're going to be a couple days later when you are debriefing as a team going, now what happened? What was that? What do we need to follow up on? So have that already prepared. And I like that Stephanie said serve them food. We all know if you feed them, they will come. Right, so serve them food, don't overdress is a good one. And I'll kind of throw in one that when we were forming a new club in Blue Springs, Missouri, that was catered more toward millennials, one of our recruiting, now this wasn't an information meeting, but it was or no, it was our information meeting. We ended it with a Pokemon Go hunt in downtown Blue Springs. And we actually got it was a family oriented club, and we got a lot of families and kids that way. So kind of thinking about those. Um, and somebody mentioned that the notes are also great to say, to send out to attendees that weren't able to attend. So those people that are potential recruits but couldn't be there. And so next we're going to look at how you're going to conduct the meeting. Debbie, take it away.
All right, thanks, Jesse. So let's talk about how we are going to conduct this meeting. We want to have welcome and introductions, and we want to introduce everyone that is attending, Lions and the potential new members. And that's going to be easier, like Jesse said, if they have their name tags on. It's important to keep it casual and fun. We don't want a stuffy meeting that these new potential Lions are coming to. Potential members don't understand some of our Lions traditions or the initials behind Lions leader names, so don't use acronyms. You probably shouldn't fill the room with a bunch of Lions. Have a select few, maybe the district governor, maybe his own chair. Have your extension chair, someone from the sponsoring club, and the guiding line. You want familiar faces that these people are going to get used to. And some of their, like Jesse said, they're welcoming faces. We want to do a Lions overview. Now, at the last growth workshop, we reviewed the Start a New Club page. And under the workshop tools, there's a short informational meeting PowerPoint, and that is perfect, for your meeting that you're going to have. But it gives a great overview of Lions, talking about our mission and our vision, our history, our global causes. And the good thing is it can be modified to meet any community. We want to talk about the benefits and the costs. It might be fun to have one of those Lions talk about their Lions journey and what they really think about the benefits of being a Lion are. The key is to keep it brief, 2 or 3 minutes each. It's important to talk about the dues, okay? International, multiple district, single district, and if there would be club dues. Talk about the discounted international dues, depending on what type of a club that you're going to form. Remember that the international dues and fees are also found on that Start a New Club page. Something else we want to talk about are their project ideas. And so one thing you really want to do is have a brainstorming session. And it's important that you capture those ideas of the new projects. And it's important that you let all of the potential new Lions, talk and come up with their project that they're passionate about. So if you have a screen and a projector there, you could have someone just type ideas on and everyone could see it that way. Or you can go old school and, have a whiteboard or a poster board, whatever. but you have to make sure that everyone has a chance to share their idea for a project. You could email all of those project ideas to the potential new members, or have them take a picture with their camera so they can take it with them and really think about those projects and what they would like to do. Need to talk about the next meeting, the information where you're going to have it, the time, the date, the location, and try to find a date and time location that works for the majority. Usually it doesn't work for everyone, but try to find something that works for most of the people. Like we mentioned before, we want to collect those charter fees. So some way to collect those digital payments. And we did talk about all the different options, Square, Venmo, all of the others. Like we said, most people don't carry cash or have a check with them, whatever that is. But it's important to plan for this. You don't want to get there and they're ready to join. They want to pay their charter fee, but nobody has a way to collect those fees. Remind them to ask and invite their friends. So think about the recruiting wheel and give them ideas of who to invite, their friends, their family, neighbors, work associates, people from other clubs that they belong to, or people from church, and have them bring those people and give you names at the next meeting. The important thing to remember is, this is their club. They need to make it their club. Like we say, your club, your way. All right, Stephanie, you want to talk to us about the follow-up?
Sure. Thanks, Debbie. So the next step is follow-up. And this is so important because you've done all this work and you've had these people there and you don't want to lose them. So follow-up is so important. You need to be able to send those thank you emails to all the attendees. So anyone who showed up, make sure you get a thank you email out to them. I think best practice would probably be like within 48 hours, get that thank you email out. So remember back when you were preparing and you had like, this is the line that's going to take notes. You're going to also designate, this is who's going to send the thank you emails, right? Because you need to make sure that happens right away after the meeting. And in that email, send a recap email to the prospective members who also didn't attend. So you thank you to the people who were there, but also include the people who couldn't make it, right? Like they're interested, but this time didn't work for them. Still include them in that recap email. And in that email, you'll want to promote when that next meeting is going to be. So they all had decided our next meeting is going to be at this place and date and time. Make sure you put that in the follow-up. And then when it comes close to that time, make sure that you're sending the meeting reminders too. And let me backtrack a little bit on that thank you and recap. If they were especially passionate about some project ideas, make sure that you are capturing those and just reminding people about, hey, all of you came up with these great ideas for these projects. It's going to get them excited and hooked. They might have, someone might have an idea for a project they've wanted to do, and now they have all these people that are sharing and going to empower them to do that project. And so make sure that those project ideas go out in that recap. The other thing that we'll do is the people who couldn't make it there for that information meeting, they're going to see, oh, wow, they already came up with these ideas of projects we could do. And they might get fired up too and excited about it. So make sure you include that in those recap emails. All right.
And I apologize if I missed it because I was reading the chat, but did we also mention that typically only about 20 to 25% of the people who sign up to attend the meeting will actually attend it. So don't get discouraged if you see that. Because that is pretty common.
Before we move on, can I just, there's one question that there's a couple of questions about the charter's application fee of the $35. And the charter fee that Debbie referred to and an application fee are one and the same, number one. And then the First Vice District Governor Carroll out of 6C is asking about a personal charter or application fee and one for new club charter. And the reality is that if you are a charter member, you pay the one application fee and it's called the charter application fee as opposed to just an application fee. So it's one and the same, you only pay it one time. Hopefully that helps clarify for you, Carol.
And I also have a follow-up. So as we are promoting the next meeting with the people that we already have that have already said that they're interested, we can also promote that more widely. Like we could go to the local newspaper, we can promote it in social media. So when we set the next meeting, we can promote that, you know, keep promoting, keep inviting people, have people, you know, bring a friend to the next meeting. Like, do you know a fun, positive person? Bring them along.
Okay, so I think we're ready for the organization meeting slide, Jody.
Okay, you can kick us off, Jody.
Excellent. So the organizational meeting is where the club members begin to form their own club. That's where they elect officers and begin planning the first service project. They also work to choose their name, meeting date, time, and location. I will add that this meeting is sometimes one that takes quite a bit of time because there's a lot of conversation going on. So I believe Jesse is going to talk a little bit about how this we move on from here. And you'll note there's some very similar items that you do for this meeting as you do for the informational meeting.
Yes, so we're going to prepare in a very similar way. We want to, just like we worked with those key stakeholders to promote the informational meeting, we want to work with our new Lions to promote the organization meeting. Just because we're organizing doesn't mean we've stopped recruiting. So they might still be bringing those new people in, the people that couldn't make it, somebody who hadn't heard of it yet. Again, we want to look at how are we setting up the room. We don't, we want to make it conducive to work. So if that is, tables, um, are you somewhere like I know a lot of clubs like in my area like to meet in restaurants? Is there a separate room? Is it going to be noisy? So again, thinking about that, and knowing that might be a longer meeting, is this somewhere that we can have for a longer time? And the recruiting district team should be part of the organizational meeting and any other meetings until it's chartered as we're thinking about that preparation. You want to, again, dress professionally. Somebody mentioned in the chat that, if you get there a little bit early and you've got your tie and your vest on and then or your tie and jacket on, and then you see that people are coming without it, you can take it off. I would personally recommend not even wearing it to the meeting at all unless you know it's a business meeting. Now, if you are recruiting a what used to be the traditional business club and you have a really good feeling people are going to show up in suits, then absolutely wear that. You're right, you can always take it off. But if there's not a business oriented, I just would honestly leave that at home. And somebody said, why no vest? Again, that vest, I know we're very attached to our yellow vests, but it's another thing that separates us from the people. Um, Again, if you're talking, I'm a millennial. If you're talking younger generation, I can tell you that a lot of us will look at that vest and go, who are these weirdos? And why are we listening to them? And it doesn't mean that you never wear a vest for the service project. You saw my father's second VDG in Missouri, and he and I were talking about these sessions after his was Monday night. And he said, I know what they mean about the vest, but I still think we should wear it for service projects because our community recognizes us. Absolutely. That's their brand in their community. Continue to wear those vests for those service projects. We're just saying it's maybe not the right choice for the organizational and informational meetings. And again, these are general guidelines. If you have a group that you really think is like, hey, this is a group that wearing the vest would be beneficial. Maybe this is a group that is already on board with an existing service project and they know us by that vest, then yeah, that might be the time. These are not, these are not the 10 commandments. We didn't write these in stone. So, and as a general rule, I wouldn't wear it. Um, Again, having those attendee name tags, having that welcoming committee, you're going to notice the prep is very similar. Having that lion to take notes. Just one thing to remember is that the new club support team is there to provide guidance and support the team, not to make it look like other clubs. So thinking about that as you get that people in there to support them, that they're prepared that they're guiding the club, but if the club wants to do something different, it's okay. It's going to be their own. And so now we're going to look at how we're going to conduct that organizational meeting.
All right. So you're going to conduct the organizational meeting, and there is a PowerPoint for that one too on the new club page. So make sure you use those PowerPoints. They're awesome. Our welcome and introductions, you're going to apply the same format as the information meeting. Don't overwhelm the potential club members with too many lions in the room. It's all about the new members. Keep it light and fun again. Introduce everybody. Try not to use all the Lions acronyms. And remember, we're all just Lions there trying to start a new club. You're going to talk about and select a new club name. Now, there are rules and criteria for choosing a name for a new Lions Club. The name of the new club must comply with the requirements established in Lions Club International Constitution and bylaws. Or you can just follow the guidelines on the PowerPoint. It lists them all right there. But if you want to, in the board policy, section 10, chapter 10, section 5, you'll find it there. But it's much easier to just follow the PowerPoint. You want to review the list of project ideas from the informational meeting. So it would be a great idea if you could choose 3. So try to pick one that's pretty easy that, the club could do and, get it under the belt right away. One that's a little more advanced, takes a little more planning, more people involved. And then finally, have one that's definitely more advanced. It's down the road. It's going to take some months and some planning, and give them a chance to have some different committees that they can set up. So, but I think a new club, if they're able to get a project done right away and get started in Lionism, serving their community, it's really going to help them out. So make sure that their projects, everyone knows what they are. Keep that list. When you finished one, go on to another one. You want to make sure that everybody feels like their passion's being heard and that their projects are coming up too. You want to explain the chartering process. The first step we talked about, you have to get a name, you have to recruit the new officers, and then you're going to start filling out the club application. You can submit the application online, which is great, and there's instructions in the PowerPoint too. You're going to want all of the new club information, the name, the meeting location, the club type, sponsoring club information, the new club officers, the number of charter members. So there's a lot to it that has to be filled in. You have to fill in all the information for every one of those new members, signatures from the district governor. So there's a lot to fill out. It's really important that you follow the steps. It takes approximately 45 days, up to 45 days. And if there are mistakes or something that's left off, you hate to delay that. So, really go over it and make sure you're following the process. Recruiting the new club officers. Learn about the new members. What are their skills? What are their careers? Is there a CPA? Maybe they would be a good treasurer. Maybe one person has worked as an administrative secretary. Maybe someone owns a business. So tap into their skills and maybe look at their careers. Make sure they're excited to take on a project or to take on an office. That's really important that they're passionate about that too. It's important that you narrow down the meeting times and the dates and location. Have a discussion with them. What is the best time, date, location that meets and the needs of the majority of the people there? Maybe it has to be kind of a hybrid. You could have a meeting on a Tuesday and a meeting on a Thursday, a morning meeting, a night meeting. So it's okay to mix it up, but you want to make sure that you can get your members there. You have to find a date that works for everyone. And all this information is going to be listed in the portal. So, it's important that you get all that right. Okay, and Stephanie is going to talk about the follow-up again.
Great. Thanks, Debbie. So like they were saying, so this organization meeting, it's really how we move forward and get the club to be starting to operate on their own independently. This is like the transition point. So the district team that's helped them get this far, we're there and we're getting them set up, right? So in the conduct phase, we decided who those new officers are going to be. And so now that we have those new officers, we need to develop their training plan. How are we going to get those new officers trained? And then we need to make sure that we get that set up for them. Is it going to be online training? Is it going to, are we going to have some classes for them? Set up their mentoring structure. Who's going to mentor them? So maybe the sponsor club, the treasurer is going to mentor the new treasurer, and the secretary is going to mentor the new secretary. So whatever that training plan is, make sure that's in place. And this is, that follow-up that's vital to making sure these new leaders are equipped with the tools they need to succeed. And also your guiding lions. I heard this so much during the beginning of this meeting. The guiding lions are critical to making sure this club is successful. So follow up, super important here. Really important to make sure that they have the proper training and everything. And then as we're set up, right, and they're starting to go, we need to make sure that they're still encouraging them to promote, right? Hey, there's this new club, try and still get new members. And as we're doing those little quick win projects, people are getting more and more excited, bringing their friends in. So use that excitement and momentum and encourage them to still promote and get new members, build membership. And then also, maybe not all of the members could be at this organization meeting. So it is important to follow up with the people who showed interest, but they couldn't make it to the meeting or for some reason haven't attended yet. Just still keep them in the loop, right? Because they at one point showed interest, and maybe we don't know what's going on. We can't assume that they're not interested. So we got to make sure that we're continuing to follow up with all those leads that we got. So that is our follow-up. Joe, do you want to close us out on this organization meeting?
Sure, I'd love to. So, during these organizational meetings, first of all, this is really when you start turning over at the end of this organizational meeting, turning the club over to the new members. They're the ones that start doing the follow-up. You as a organizing team or a club support team are really just there to provide guidance and support them as they work through this. And it's important that we remember that we're there as a support team, not to make the club look like any other clubs. So we need to make sure to focus on letting the club make it their own. A pledge, a prayer, the vest may not be the thing for them, and that's okay. Stay out of it. Your club, your way. They need to build a club that meets their member needs so that they can be successful going forward. Another key point to note on both the information meetings and the organizational meetings. Sometimes these agendas take several meetings to accomplish. With the information meeting, maybe you only have a handful of people that make it to that first meeting. So you need to kind of recap it again as you move forward at your next meeting. Sometimes with the organizational meeting, it takes a long time for them to come up with someone that's going to step up to serve in those offices. Whatever it is, you need to be flexible and hold the number of meetings it takes to get the job done so that they can get their club started in a good way. And one key point in this, though, no matter how many meetings it takes, you have to be careful to not lose momentum. So you need to make sure that the meetings, these next meetings, these follow-up meetings are scheduled within a week to 10 days in order to not lose that momentum. With that, I think I'm going to share with you a link, actually a QR code that will take you to those informational and organizational meeting PowerPoints that Deb was referring to. I also will drop into the chat again the LCI Start a New Club webpage, where you will find those PowerPoints listed as well for you to be able to download. So that's it on a needs-based Lions Club. And I'm guessing that the model we just shared with you is pretty familiar to many of you because it's a model we've been using for decades. Next up is an entirely different way to approach starting a club, and it's called asset-based community development. Daniel Marnie Elkins is a master of starting these asset-based clubs. So we're going to start with some inspiration from him. A little video coming up next, and hopefully it runs perfectly this time. So fingers crossed, here we go.
Well, hello, Lions. My name is Lion Daniel Marnie Elkins, and today I'm here to talk to you about asset-based community development, the ABCDs of how to build and grow membership in Lions. What is the core of the concept of asset-based community development? It's based on foundational truths. The foundational truths are: 1, everyone has gifts. 2, everyone has something to contribute. And 3, everyone cares about something, and that passion is his or her motivation to act. Now, when you talk about asset-based community development, you are talking about an asset-based approach to community. This is different from the needs-based approach that Lionism has been built on for the last century or so. You all know the saying, where there's a need, there's a lion. And a needs-based approach focuses on the deficiencies. It focuses on what's wrong in a community. Now, people are the consumers of your service, and community members observe as issues are being addressed. When you talk about a community needs assessment, you are looking at what the needs in the community are. Now, an asset-based approach is focusing on the effectiveness, the potential skills and talents and passions and resources that exist within the community that could be motivated and recruited to help spread Lionism and grow service within that community. With an asset-based approach, community members participate and are empowered. So how do you use this theory to help charter new clubs, revitalize old ones? Well, it starts with asset mapping. Asset mapping is the process by which you look at a community and you begin to list out all of the potential assets within that community, whether or not it's local nonprofits that you could potentially partner with, whether or not that there's a local library that you could potentially base a club branch out of, whether or not it's that you have a number of schools that you could put in a Leo Club at. These are all the potential assets that you could be using to revitalize Lionism within your area. Taking the asset approach means listing out all of these things and developing a contact list that you begin with in order to build the structure for growth in that area. Where there is an asset, there is a future lion. Asset mapping and the process of listing out these places is a fairly simple process to do. There's an app for it, and I believe you'll learn a little bit more about that during this presentation. But also, you can just go to Google and Google what are the local nonprofits in my area. Google what are the organizations that serve youth in the area or serve homelessness or any one of our areas that we want to focus on. You can begin to pinpoint and target, which gives you the opportunity to be able to reach out to these people and activate what they are already doing and already passionate about. I did asset-based mapping in my community, and I found that one of the assets we had was a young man who was an artist. And I asked him what he was passionate about. And he said he was passionate about art and teaching art. And so I pulled out a Lions Club application and I said, excellent. That's exactly what we do. And because we were willing to adapt and change and use the asset-based approach, that became what we did as Lions. And he is now in the process of working on chartering an entire artist club for our community. Asset-based community development. There's a map that will lead us to the promised land of increased membership. You just gotta use it. Thank you very much for listening. And if you need to know more, feel free to reach out and I will answer any questions that you have.
Next slide, Jody, please. I love Daniel's video. That so many great ideas, but finding the assets in our community and realizing that they're potential new members to our clubs and new partners possibly. So what a great concept. So let's go ahead and look through our slide here and just review some of the concepts that Daniel touched on asset-based community development. So we're going to focus on skills and talents and passions in our community. I think we all know different people in our community that have artists and musical talents and passions about. We live at the beach, so we have lots of people who are interested in the environment and doing beach cleanups. So we've partnered with a lot of them. Everyone has gifts, something that they can contribute, and they have a passion about that too. I loved when Daniel said, where there's an asset, there's a future lion. And that's so true. Determine the asset or future lion's passion. The asset's passion becomes part of the club's passion. Like Daniel said, they found, the person who was an artist and that was his passion. And soon it was their club's passion too. So as community needs to evolve, and so must our service. So what a great way to take part in this asset-based, mapping and community development. So let's talk next about starting an asset-based club. And Stephanie, will you start us off?
Sure. Next slide. Okay, so we are going to go through the steps. So it's kind of new. So we're going to lay it all out here. 1 through 7, the steps that you can follow. The first step is to identify key community assets. So we begin by mapping the assets in the community. Daniel talked about one of the things we can use, artificial intelligence. The Lions Map to Grow is one thing. We can also use Google. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to identify the assets that could include individuals or organizations or institutions or physical resources. We're trying to identify those assets that could align with our Lions mission. So some examples of specific assets to target, like we said before, local leaders and influencers, people who are well respected in the community, like business owners, positive business owners, educators, faith leaders, nonprofit directors. Those are local leaders and influencers that we could identify in our community. There's also other existing organizations, nonprofits, local businesses, schools, service groups, groups that are already addressing community needs. Those are some key community assets. Next, public and civic institutions, libraries, community centers, local government officials that are promoting community engagement. They are community assets. And also residents with specialized skills, people who have professional or volunteer experience in certain areas, such as healthcare, education, or fundraising. Those are assets. And so we begin to make a list and we begin mapping those assets in our community. That's step 1. So now, Jody, what's step 2?
Awesome list, Stephanie. Step 2 is, now that you've identified these assets, you want to connect with them. So you're going to reach out to them through personalized and relationship building efforts. So I'm going to give you a couple of tips on what that means. One way to do it is one-on-one meetings, where you schedule these personal meetings or coffee chats to introduce the concept of a new Lions Club. During the conversation, you're focused on this person's passions, this asset's passions, their community involvement and skills. And you're going to ask open-ended questions like, what are you passionate about in this community? What do you think the community needs most? And how do you see yourself making a difference with it? You're also going to look to leverage existing relationships. So it goes back to what we were talking about before. If any current Lions member or other community contacts already know these individuals, ask them to facilitate an introduction. This adds credibility to yourself and strengthens your outreach at all times. And the third tool I'm going to give you, or suggestion I'm going to give you, is to invite them to participate in a project. You know, instead of directly asking them to join the club right away, invite them to be part of a service project or community event sponsored by the Lions. This allows them to see Lions in action and engage with our mission before making a commitment. Heck, we all know the high you get and the great feeling you get when you serve the community and make a difference. Hook them on service before you ask them to join. All right, up next, who's got step 3?
All right, so for step 3, we are looking at how we frame the invite around those shared values and community strengths. So when you invite those key members, just like Daniel was talking about, we want to highlight how the Lions Club aligns with their values and the positive aspects of the community they care about. So he said they had that art teacher. And it's like, yes, that is what Lions do. We teach art. And we do. We have the Peace Poster Contest, for example. When we were starting the Childhood Cancer Club, we looked specifically at community leaders who were already engaged in that. And what do you do for the childhood cancer community? Oh, you arrange cleanings when kids are coming home from chemotherapy. We need that as part of our service project. So we're explaining to them how they can leverage their existing strengths and skills to make an impact. Oh, you do a lot of project planning at work. You can help us plan our next service project. You know, that and there was a lot of great discussion in the chat about those treasurers. You know, that not everybody who that we see a lot of, well, just because I'm a CPA at work does not mean that I want to be your club's accountant. Great, could you possibly help guide our treasurer? Make sure that we're meeting those deadlines, but you don't have to do all the work yourself. So how can we leverage those skills? If they are a business leader, emphasize how being part of the Lions Club can help them network with other leaders while contributing to corporate social responsibility. And especially for those younger business members, I really like to highlight all the amazing training we have. You know, a lot of it is free if you go to the Learn Center or the Lions University page. And then, of course, you have the forum where you can do a lot of networking and get classes at a much cheaper rate than what their business might pay for the same thing. And it really is good quality instruction. If they are a nonprofit, explain how we can partner with their organization, share resources to address mutual goals for the community. I know there was a lot of question about that join together and why would a nonprofit who's already existing want to join. And one thing that we have found in our area is especially these smaller, like mom and pop nonprofits, to be able to access our grants, to be able to say, hey, you can advertise what you're doing. And we have a district newsletter that goes out, and our district is great about showing up and helping with service projects. So being able to leverage that. Educator or community worker, point out the opportunities to mentor youth. We have our youth exchange camps, you know, or lead educational initiatives within the club. So again, we're wanting to really focus on how we can utilize their strengths and really make them feel welcome in our club. And so now we're on to number 4.
Okay, thanks, Jesse. So we're going to talk about how we can host a community event centered on collaboration to help us start an asset-based club. So you could organize a small event or a forum where key community leaders and organizations can come together and to discuss local needs and opportunities. So at this event, you want to encourage collaboration. Ask participants to brainstorm the different ways that the community can leverage its strengths and address the challenges in the community. Highlight some of the Lions' missions of service and community building. You could offer specific examples on how New Lions Club can be a help taking on these new challenges. You know, think about the opportunities out there with all of these new partners. There's leadership opportunities too, because you can show how joining a Lions Club gives them a leadership platform to make a lasting difference in the community and connecting with like-minded people. Okay.
And I'll do number 5. So I'm going to elaborate a little bit more on this leadership concept. So number 5, offer leadership roles to engage key members. You can offer specific leadership roles to key potential members that align with their strengths or their interests. Maybe, like we said, maybe they're a CPA by day, but that's not really what they want to do in their Lions Club. Maybe they have a passion for something else and that's what they want to do. So a couple examples of how we can offer leadership roles. Project leads, someone with a passion for a particular cause, like maybe vision care or pediatric cancer or youth mentorship, they can lead Lions service projects in that area. And so this is a good opportunity to say, hey, if you want to lead a project in this thing that you're passionate about, we're here to support you and we will empower you. Another thing is membership or partnership chair. A well-connected individual could be invited to help build the club's network by recruiting more members or developing relationships with local organizations. Also a treasurer or some other type of organizer, a person that has strong organizational or financial background, they can help in structuring the club's operational aspects. I think we also mentioned, if you're out there finding those positive, fun business leaders, maybe they want to take on a leadership role too, because there's something about them that has made them successful in bringing the community together in their business, and maybe they can do that for the club too. So that's number 5. How about Jody with number 6?
Awesome. So we're going to talk about a tip on what you should be looking to add into your recruitment conversations when you have these conversations. And that's all about creating the shared vision for your community. So ask them to imagine what their ideal community looks like and how they and a Lions Club can help get there. So a couple ways you might want to frame that discussion. You can talk about highlighting local strengths. For example, our community has incredible assets. People who care deeply about education, local businesses that thrive, and residents who volunteer. By bringing these forces together through a Lions Club, we can multiply our impact. Another option would be to look at how we address specific needs. And it goes back to what Stephanie was just talking about. I know you're passionate about youth programs, and I'd love to see you lead an initiative in the new Lions Clubs that focuses on empowering our young people. And the last piece I'll offer to you is a vision of growth that you might want to use. Imagine how together we can grow a network of community leaders who not only serve, but create lasting partnerships. These are great ways for you to frame a conversation about a shared vision for the community. How about, I'm guessing it's going to be Jessie bringing us home on this.
Absolutely. So the final one is we want to, just like we talked about in our organizational and informational meeting slides, we want to follow up and we want to sustain those relationships. So after the initial invitation, it's important that we follow up with those potential members, both those who accepted and those who are still considering joining. So sometimes I like to refer to those as the not yet people. So we want to have regular updates, keep them informed about the club's progress, upcoming projects, and success stories. So if your club uses social media like Facebook, Instagram, that kind of thing, having a club page, inviting them to be part of that. Or if you have emails and you're able to send out an email newsletter update, that type of thing. Engage in small ways, even if they're not ready to join yet. We want to find ways they can stay involved. So a lot of times when we're recruiting the younger generation that have families or new to the workplace, they may not feel that they have time or money yet. And so, oh, I understand, but would you be willing to come assist us with a service project? Can I take your name for that? You don't have to be a member to be part of a service project. And then you just kind of slowly, it's like boiling the frog, right? You just keep turning up that heat little by little, and then you'll find that eventually a lot of people will end up joining when they see how it impacts them. That personal touch, you want to continue to nurture relationships through personalized outreach. Check in on their opinions, ask for feedback on club initiatives, or express appreciation for their contributions. Hey, I really like that idea that you had. That service project you suggested, I think is going to be a really good one. oh, how's that coming? You mentioned that your nonprofit has this event coming up. We just want to touch base and make sure, is there any other way that we can help you? That type of thing. If we follow this approach, we're emphasizing the strengths and the assets that we already have in our community, and we're aligning the Lions Club mission with the passion and talents of those key potential members. It's not only attracts committed individuals, but it also builds a club that is going to reflect and amplify those unique resources and values in the community. Kind of as Stephanie mentioned earlier, a lot of times when we think of need-based, we think of where our community is weakest. And now we're looking at flipping that model. We're still meeting those needs, but we're thinking about how our community is strongest. And so next up, we are going to have um, Debbie close us out.
Okay, thanks, Jesse. I think we finished up the last slide, but we'll go on to the map to grow slide. So remember in session 1, we demonstrated the Lions Map to Grow app. So this app makes identifying community assets and potential partners very quick and easy. If you missed session 1 or you want to see the demo again, the link is in the chat and will be included in Friday's follow-up email to every registrant and attendee tonight. Just log on the app and then click on the asset-based, I can't say that word tonight, asset-based community development box and type in your location. Simple and easy. We talked about that in the last session. Within minutes, you will see a list of community assets, and the app will prompt you to go even further in suggestions. We've talked about a couple different recruitment models. Now we're going to talk about how to recruit younger generations.
All right, so we're going to again talk about how are we going to recruit the millennials and the Gen Z. And let's get some example or some definitions going. So we're defining millennials. You're going to see, depending on the resource, a lot of different years. For the sake of discussion, we're looking at 1980 to 1994, and Gen Z is 1995 to 2010. So we want to think about what do we need to do to make our own clubs viable options to attract millennials and Gen Zs. And so we're looking at information from Scott McLeod from Transformational Community Service Leader, turning abstract concept into successful programs. That's a mouthful. We're going to break it down. And even though we are focusing on millennials and Gen Z, a lot of these tips are honestly going to apply to every generation. So we're going to ask Debbie to start with the blue circle.
Okay, so it's important that we make volunteering convenient and flexible for everyone, like Jesse said. So these days, service opportunities need to offer flexibility for the Gen Z and millennials to connect, but also for everyone, really. So it's important that individuals want to engage in multiple ways, from remote, from in-person, hybrid, short-term, single-day, long-term, multi-day, ongoing projects. We need to have a variety that really is open for everyone, that meets their needs. If they're working, you need to have, some more options for them to do service with you. It's important that you have orientation and trainings, and hopefully you could use some recorded videos or teleconferencing, and use learning management systems that can be accessed from anywhere and make use of their skills. I think that wraps it up, and on to Stephanie.
All right. So next tip. When we're recruiting millennials and Gen Z, we need to align with their values and passions. Millennials and Gen Z, they're not interested in volunteering just for the sake of it. They actually want to make a difference and support causes that resonate with their values and their passions. So to attract and retain millennials, you need to communicate the impact and purpose of the organization and its projects. You can also customize the volunteer roles and the tasks to match their skills, their interests, their goals, their passions. For example, you can offer them opportunity to learn new skills, gain new experience, network with peers, or have mentors, and also express their creativity and their passion. Ask them, what is your passion? Let us empower you. Let us help you make your passion come true through a service project. So remember, align with their values and passions. Next, Jody.
Excellent. Our next tip is about involving them in co-creation and decision-making. What the heck does that mean? That means you need to listen to them and take it to heart and let them do things, because millennials and Gen Z are not passive and obedient followers. They're active, empowered participants who want to have a voice and a choice in their volunteering experiences. We just saw in the chat that a club had a brand new lion come in and want to start a new project to bring authors together. And they had 21 authors do a book signing. How fantastic is that? That new lion is fired up, and probably a lion for life, because it was meeting their needs. And kudos again to that club for allowing them to do it. The next thing is to engage them. You need to involve them in co-creation and the decision-making processes. Let them have that say. Let them be involved in figuring out what this project is going to be, what it looks like, and decisions on how you're going to work, your club is going to operate. You can do this by inviting them to share their ideas, feedback, and suggestions on how to improve your organizations and its projects to meet the needs of their generation. You can also give them autonomy and ownership over their volunteer roles and tasks, and encourage them to take initiative and leadership, and then mentor them and support them throughout that process. Next up with the green circle, Jessie, I'm guessing it's you.
It is. So we want to recognize and reward contributions. And can I just say, as a millennial, I really hate the snide remarks about the everybody gets a trophy generation. That is not what we are talking about. And if you're making remarks like that, you are going to lose your younger generations really quickly. So what we're talking about, we are not looking for monetary or material rewards for our volunteering efforts. That's not what we're looking for. What we want is we want recognition and appreciation. When we say recognition, that can be as simple as a thank you. And I would argue that, again, these apply to every generation. Nobody wants to feel like they put in a ton of work on a service project and nobody recognized or appreciated it. So a simple thank you is often enough. If you retain them, you want to recognize and reward us in meaningful and authentic ways. So again, if you've got in our district, my year as district governor, we had an award named after a young lady with childhood cancer who was all about serving the community and making those small impactful differences. We call it the Starfish Award. And so we would look for who are those lions going out into their communities and doing service projects. So if you have an award like that in your district, or just a way to recognize, it can be a shout out in a newsletter. Make it authentic, make it meaningful. You can again thank them personally and publicly, highlight their stories, celebrate milestones and successes, which we do as Lions. We have our pins for our years of service, right? A lot of districts have those little things they do to recognize. And again, so if you have that certificate, it doesn't cost a lot to print up a piece of paper and present it at a meeting. A badge or an endorsement that can showcase their skills and impact. So again, we had that, they mentioned the author showcase. If you've got those, saying at the author showcase, we would like to thank Lion so-and-so for putting this together. And as people are saying in the chat, like, this is not just this generation, every Lion, because how often do we hear this even from our more experienced Lions who say, I did all this work and nobody even noticed. Nobody even said thank you, right? Nobody wants to feel taken advantage of. So just remembering to recognize and thank. And so next up, we have Debbie with inclusion.
Okay, so our final tip. So it's important that we build an inclusive community and welcoming culture. So the younger generation, millennials and Gen Z, are not isolated or individualistic. They're social and they're collaborative. They want to work together. They want to value belonging and connection to clubs. But to engage them, you need to build a community and a culture around your organization and its projects. You need to make it important and you need to welcome them in. You could foster a sense of camaraderie and friendship among your club volunteers, your club members, your partners, and also the beneficiary of your different fundraisers. You can also create a culture of fun. Everybody likes to have fun at their Lions Club meetings. Diversity and inclusion that reflects our Lions values and missions. It's so important. And like we've said before, not just the younger members, it's important for everyone. Stephanie, can you close us out on this slide?
I would love to. So the bottom line is millennials and Gen Z are the future of volunteering. So by adopting these tips and these innovative ways, we can tap into the potential, passion, and creativity and create meaningful and rewarding experiences for them and for our clubs. And I'm going to end here by quoting Clark Lindstrom. We won't be here forever, so we must nurture new voices, embrace their ideas, and trust their vision to lead the way. All right, now back to you, Jesse.
All right, so now that we've talked about what the younger generations want in a volunteer opportunity, we need to think about how do we communicate that we are a great option for them to make a difference. So you might remember elevator speeches. Those are a one-size-fits-all approach, and they're focused on what Lions do. And I can tell you, as a high school teacher working with Gen Z, you start rattling like that, and I can see their soul just leave their body and the glazed look like there is nobody home. So throw out that concept. And we're going to adopt a simple what, why, how approach. Again, this works no matter who you're talking to. So even though we're focusing on the younger generation, absolutely works on the other generations too. So like Danielle said, ask them what they are passionate about. Chances are we can easily tie that to something your clubs are already doing or to one of our global causes. Talk about why it is important. Why is that passion important? How can we use that to serve the community? You love teaching art. That's awesome. We have this peace poster contest that is designed to promote international understanding and highlight young artists. They can get monetary awards and scholarships. What a great opportunity to become involved in this existing service project and help us serve our community. Tell them how they can use their skills and meet that need through Lions. Oh, you work with young children. That's great. We were thinking of doing a parents' night out, but we really need somebody who knows how to entertain young children. So what is that going to look like? So we're going to see this what, why, how approach in action. This promotional video from the Bellefonte Lions Club brings everything we've been talking about together. So let's check this out.
Hello world, my name is Lion Daniel Marnie Elkins, and I'm here today to talk about all the amazing things that you can do as a part of the Lions Club. Did you know that Lions, we're going green? We focus on the environment. We do everything from doing community gardens to service at community centers. In fact, Lions can do anything that they imagine when it comes to serving their community. We have a saying, it's called your club, your way. And most people's perception of what a Lions Club is based around potentially people sitting at meetings and, maybe fundraisers, but what the core of everything that we do is service. In fact, if we look right over here, this is the Bellefonte Lions Club. And this is a Bellefonte Lions Club meeting. We do service at our meetings. And you can see we are sorting clothing for the needy. So our club meeting is actually doing service, trying to help others. And so we have club members and we have Leos, and we're sitting here and we're sorting clothes to be able to donate to families in need. We're outside, it's a beautiful garden. We got people who are working on lots of different things. We have a committee down here that's making bookmarks to put into books with positive messages on the back of them so that people can find them and see the amazing work that Lions do. In fact, Lions can do anything. It's just about what you're passionate about. And if you take the time to ask people what they're passionate about, you might discover that they want to join your club. In fact, hold on a second. Hello.
Hi.
What's your name, sir?
Louis Navarrete.
And Louis, what are you passionate about?
I'm passionate about making movies.
You're passionate about making movies? Would you be willing to help make movies for our community to raise awareness about the service projects that we do?
Of course I would.
Okay,
yeah.
Then could I get the club's attention, please? Yay! Hey, we have someone who's about to join our Lions Club. And so if I could ask right here, we are going to make Lion Lewis a member of the world's largest service organization. And you are joining a global family with 1.4 million members in over 200 countries in the world. That is changing the world each and every day. And you're willing to do that by helping make videos to raise awareness about the importance of serving our communities?
Oh, you know it.
All right.
Absolutely.
Can I get an awesome? Woo! Welcome to the family.
Changing the world.
We serve.
Sure.
Oh my God, I love that video for so many reasons. And it's so inspirational and it's so real. That is Daniel Marnie Elkins' home club, a club that started out as a small branch club of 5 to 6. And I believe now it's up to 180 some members and they have 5 different branch clubs operating. They did this all with asset-based community development and using that needs-based approach, I'm sorry, not the needs-based approach, the what's your passion, the what, why, and how, that people really love to get involved. They are meeting their personal goals and they feel great about serving. That's where we all need to get. Every member of that club is fired up to make a difference. They do service at their club meetings. They have all kinds of opportunities to serve. And it's just a really great feeling. I've had the chance to visit that club. And I tell you what, if you ever get out to Bellefonte and in Wilmington, Delaware, take a look at that club, stop in and visit and get fired up. I will also add the other key piece of their success is that service equals membership. They do meaningful service that means something to their members and their community. And that's what keeps their success. It's sustainable and keeps them going. So it's just a fantastic opportunity to take a look at a club in action. That video, along with all the rest of them, I'll remind you, are available on that Lions, the US Lions Rock Inspiration channel. I'll be dropping that in the chat again for you a little bit later. But for the time being, I want to take you back to Map to Grow for a moment, because the fourth prompt, the fourth option on there is an opportunity for you to practice your own what, why, and how presentation or conversation, because it's kind of different for us to do. For many of us, it's going to feel uncomfortable the first couple times we try it. So the more you practice, the more you'll feel comfortable and the smoother your conversation will be. So practice makes perfect. We've all heard that before. So that practice recruiting prompt on Lions Map to Grow is a great opportunity for you to practice your own conversation points before you get out there and talk to other people. And I have a challenge for you with this. I want to challenge each and every one of you before we meet again in 2 weeks to think of a person that you know and admire that's not a Lion. Invite them to coffee and have a conversation with them. Use this what, why, how approach to ask them what they're passionate about. Talk about why it's important, and then show them how Lions can help them meet those goals and needs that they have. So here's the next thing up. We're done with talking about recruiting a new generation. We're just going to go to some basic recruiting inspiration. And we're going to turn to one of our United States superstar recruiters. Many of you know him. I think he's sitting on this call right now, Richard Stevenson from Arizona. Then after we hear from Richard, our facilitating team is going to take your recruiting questions. So if you have any questions about recruiting, drop them in the chat and our team will cover them for you after we share this brief video from Lion Richard. So here we go.
Thank you so much and good evening, Lions. It's a pleasure to be here and to talk about one of my favorite subjects, which is introducing new Lions to our service and our community. I have to tell you, last week, I joined a 23-year-old young lady into our club, and I'm 78 years old. And I did it online, never even met her in person. And how did that work? Well, we have something called Do you want to recruit? Are you ready to recruit? Have you done the things necessary to be able to run with it when you're ready? And a number of those things were covered tonight, but I'd like to cover some of them over again, if you don't mind. One of them is to have a target market. Figure out who you want to recruit. Just starting out wandering about isn't the way to go. You have to say, here's the projects we're going to work on, here's the people we want to recruit. And in our case, what we did was we said, we want to deal with children. We chose a Title I school district in our community. And we said, we're going to focus on that school district. And the way we're going to get started is with vision screening. And that allowed us to know immediately who we wanted to start recruiting. And who was that? It was the people that were already there in the school district. So what we wanted to do was to get in a community assessment. We already had one. We knew we had the kids there. We knew these were needy kids in need of a number of different things. We built an image and we went on social media and we had our Facebook page set up. We have our e-clubhouse set up, and at least the Facebook page is something you can do in advance of forming a new club. And we started to reach out to those people in the community. Now with AI, my goodness, how easy could that possibly be? I used to have to go to the website of the school district and look up every single principal, every single board member, every single teacher, every single librarian, get their emails, use their emails to find their Facebook page. Once I found their Facebook page, reach out and make them friends. Once they were friends, start linking them into our posts for our service. Now you can do an awful lot of that with AI, so that's great. And so we've set up our social media first. We have an app on our e-clubhouse page that allows you to join online and allows you to pay online. We have a QR code that I can put on a business card and hand to somebody that takes you right to that page. So we don't have to do any messing about, and we have an image that looks professional, and I hope a little bit younger than 78 years old, if you don't mind my saying that. So when somebody's looking for us, this young lady happened to be looking for a Lions Club in Tucson. She found our club online. She found me, she connected with me, and she said, you know, I was a Leo a while ago in Mexico, and I'm here at the university. What can you tell me about your club and what you do? And I said, well, here's our Facebook page. You can go see several years of history of what it is we do. Here's our internal Facebook group. This shows us what we're working on. And here's our e-clubhouse, and it shows you how to join. Would you like to join? And she said, yes. So the first time I met her was at a service project earlier late last week. And we brought her in, and that was that. I have to tell you, I've joined over 10 members online without meeting them in person. How was that possible? Well, these are school nurses. Well, once you're a school nurse, I don't need to do a background check on you. I already know who you are. Well, I went looking for you. And so we find our potential members, and with AI, that's going to be a dream. So if we're starting a new club, I'm going to go, and I just did this, and I said, okay, who are the city council persons? Who are the county supervisors? Who is the dog catcher? Who are the librarians in the school district, and what are their contact information? And then I can start communicating with them online and getting the conversation going. So and I hope one of the things I want to sell is my excitement and the service projects we're doing. And to just make a comment, it was said earlier, I wrote that down. What was it? Show who you are through service. Perfect. And how do you do that? You take a photo, and if there ain't no photo, it never happened. And so you blast that out. And the interesting thing is, when I first started, I was recruiting via email and Facebook, and now it's over text and Messenger. So things changed, and you have to keep up. I hope I didn't go over my 5 minutes. I hope I didn't get too excited there, but that's just a little bit of the way we recruit. Thank you.
I love it. Thank you so much, Richard. I talk about a fun, positive person. That's Richard, right? He's like all fired up. There's a couple of things I thought were just great. Target market. I love that they said, hey, let's target what we want to do. Let's focus on children and let's do a vision screening. And then they had this built-in target market at the school. So that was just like amazing. We could probably just take that idea and replicate that and go start some clubs right now, just based off of that little hint there. Also, what a great tip. Set up the social media and the e-clubhouse in advance. That's something you can do. And if someone hears about it, they can go to the social media and see it. So I just love that tip. And then also, ain't no photo, it never happened. And I'm like the marketing person. So we say that too. Like, we have to take pictures of the fun, positive, enthusiastic lions. And because we got to share the fun, right? Like, that's part of what we do is share the fun. So hopefully you are all writing your recruiting questions in the chat. And so let's see what we have going for recruiting questions. It looks like Jesse, you want to read and then answer Becky's?
Yes.
Go
So,
ahead and, okay.
Becky asked, what is the overall plan to encourage current Lions to allow youth to participate in the club? That's a tricky one. So one thing is that I've seen recommended often is to start by recruiting 10 years younger than your youngest member and not try to get too aggressive and go beyond that, because then you can build down from there. If you've got people, I mean, we invite a friend into our club and the immediate words out somebody's mouth were, that person's too young to be a Lion. And we tried to explain to them, but we also know that not everybody's willing to change. So if you've got that, sometimes that's when you have to say maybe a branch club. And we did that. We had a club that we were working with, and it wasn't that they were unwelcoming, but the younger members felt out of place because everybody in the club was old enough to be their parent or grandparent. And they just weren't quite meshing. And so that was when we looked at, that group could be a branch club of the parent club. And so that was a little bit more successful doing it that way.
Can I just add something else to that?
Yeah.
I would also say that it really depends on the members of your current club, because what Jesse said is very true in a lot of cases. But there are opportunities to talk to your current membership and gauge their willingness to change. If they don't want to change, you can't force them to. And that's where what Jesse's talking about really comes in with creating a branch club, and you support each other and all of those things. But the reality is, if your current members aren't willing to change, if they are willing to change, bring them in. A club of multi-generations, some places having younger people who most of the members are grandparents' age works really well. It depends on the individuals involved and how willing they are to let something happen. There's a club here in Minneapolis called the Minneapolis Next Generation Downtown Lions Club, or some version of those 8 words jumbled together. Anyways, this club started out as a small club, and it was an aging club. They made a very conscious decision, these senior members, to say, hey, we can't do this forever. Guess what? They started bringing in a few younger people, and I mean considerably younger people. And they supported them and let them bring those new projects to the table. That club is now thriving. They get 65 or 70 members. They're doing worthwhile projects in their community, and it's really turned out well. So it just depends on the situation.
All right. And keep your questions coming. So if you have any more recruiting questions, go ahead and type them in. I'm going to address something that Paula Thomas Turner said earlier. She said, I would love to see some tips on how to start a virtual club for these specific generations. I think that you maybe asked that a little bit earlier when we were talking about millennials and Gen Z. And I think Richard may have given some tips in his video. A couple other things that I heard him say, he did a lot of the communication over text message and Messenger. I also heard him say that he uses Facebook, and he's like looking to see what people are doing on Facebook, what their passions are, like what they're into. And then he's starting that conversation with them on Facebook. And so I think social media, Messenger, text message, WhatsApp, sort of those new like technologies, I think those can help. And then I'll just offer this. You can also probably reach out to Richard and ask him how his virtual club was started. So,
and I will say, if you have our phone number, please, for the love of God, don't call us. Like that is a running joke. If you look at social media and what millennials and Gen Z post, a lot of us say or like talking on the phone is like one of the worst things you can ask us to do. So text, all the things that Stephanie listed are much better than a phone call for at least the younger generations in most cases.
And some of the younger generations, we're still at work. So if you call us during the day, we're not going to answer you and we're not going to listen to the voicemail. So just text message us.
Yeah, they don't listen to voicemail. And not only their generations, I don't listen to voicemail anymore. So there's just not enough hours in the day. So you've got to communicate the way that people want to be communicated with.
All right. So any other questions before we go to our new assignments? Okay. Anything else?
Okay, so team assignments. I guess I am up for that one. So just like anything, there's always assignments. You've got homework again this time. So we're just going to read through this. And if you have any questions, please go ahead and put them in the chat for us to answer. This next time you're going to create a recruitment plan for each potential club. You came up with your list of clubs, so a plan for each one of those, a timeline from your planning to your charter application date. All right, so you've got that timeline in place. A system to gather potential recruit names and manage contacts and status. And I think it was Stephanie that talked about having that list of names and keeping track of them. That's very, very important. Recruiting drive. Who is going to reach out to the potential recruits? If they're your friend, if you know them, you're probably, one of the best people to reach out to them. So, spread them out. Give a few names to everyone on your team. If you don't hit 20 members, how long will you recruit before starting a branch? Be realistic. You need to set a timeline there. And it's good while you have those members that are enthused to at least get the branch going. And then as it grows, you can charter a traditional club, another club. You're going to mail your plan by February 3rd to GAT leader Lori Horton. And here is her email right there. So if you have any questions or concerns about that, why don't you go ahead and drop them in the chat. Do we see anything else coming up? Okay, and there's Lori's email. Okay, we'll just continue to think about that. And if you have any questions, go ahead and drop it in the chat and we can revisit there. Okay.
Excellent. Well, we're coming to the end, everyone. This has been a fantastic session. We've had a lot of inspirational videos for you tonight. And I'm going to once again drop that link to the US Lions Rock YouTube channel into the chat for you. There's also a QR code on the screen if you prefer. You can take out your phone and open up your camera and point it at that QR code, and you should be able to get a link to go directly to the US Lions Rock YouTube channel. While you're there, make sure to subscribe to the channel. It doesn't cost anything, and every time we put a new video up, you'll get a notification that it's there and you can take and use it. Speaking of using this, if we're creating a culture of growth, we can't keep this stuff just amongst ourselves, right? So please use these videos to inspire your Lions to grow. Take them to your club meeting. Talk about the why, the what, why, and how method of inviting someone to become a Lion. Talk about what the needs of the millennials and the Gen Zs are. Have these conversations and use these videos to launch them. Also, along with that, we are always looking for more inspiration and more success stories about what's going on. So if you have a success story to share on either starting a club or recruiting or some other great success story, and you think you can share it in 5 minutes or less, we want to hear from you. We will help you create the actual video. We'll work with you to record it and do all the technical stuff. All you have to do is complete a short form that's going to give an overview of your story, and we'll contact you as soon as we can to give you a chance to share it on our Lions USA social channels. So Please, please, please reach out with your success stories. I'm seeing great stories in the chat. We want to hear from you and we want to share those stories far and wide to inspire others. All right. We're going to talk quickly about what's going to happen in our last session. Believe it or not, we only have one more of these left. And so when we come together again in 2 weeks, we're going to again do a district report out. We're going to ask a couple of you to come up and share your plans and your assignment that we just gave you to inspire us all and so we can all learn together. We're going to talk about promoting the new club. We touched on it a couple times tonight. Richard talked about targeting. Stephanie talked about how to reach out with social media and other things. We're going to dig deeper into that at our next session. The next piece we're going to talk about is the full club application process and approval. Debbie touched on this earlier tonight, but we're going to go through the actual process and show you the tools and resources that are available to you. We're then going to talk about launching the club, how you support, protect, and connect them. And then we're going to wrap up with a whole series of inspirational success stories that help solidify and cement everything we've learned throughout these sessions. And it's not too late to invite other people to join us at this meeting. We would love to have as many people as possible here as we talk about marketing and how we market Lions for both a new club and existing clubs. I will be sending out this link to the session when we you get your email on Friday. With that, thank you for spending part of your evening with us. We hope you have been inspired by these amazing recruiters we heard from tonight. We are going to be sharing that evaluation email. You'll find it in your inbox yet this evening. And that's going to have tonight's slides and links that we have shared throughout the evening. You're also going to get an email on Friday, and that's going to cover the recording from tonight's sessions and again, all the materials from tonight. If you don't receive either tonight's email or Friday's email, please, 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 please follow up with your GAT area leader, Lori. She has been very active in the chat. You all know her. And Lori, if you could type your email in the chat for me right now, that'd be fantastic, because she'll share that information with you and we'll make sure you get on the list to receive future items. And I'm going to say, don't forget your district assignment and don't forget to accept our challenge. Get out there and talk to someone about the what, why, and how of recruiting method before we meet again. With that, if you have anything else, or if you'd like to, I know there's been people dropping some of their key takeaways in, but if you'd like to drop your key takeaways from tonight into the chat, we'd love to see them. And we are excited to see you again in 2 weeks. Thank you for all you do. Stay safe. Get out there and talk to some people about how awesome it is to be a Lion.